In terms of the log form that you have to fill out regarding short haul drivers, can you explain how detailed these forms are and how much time it takes to complete them? Also, does it make sense for a driver traveling in short distances to be required to complete a log?
Well, the form, I think I flashed one up there, and if you, and I can have someone bring this up to you so you can take a look at it. What it shows, there's 4 categories in there broken down from midnight to midnight, and it shows 4 categories: off-duty, sleeper berth, driving, and on-duty. And it's broken down in 15-minute intervals. And if you can imagine any driver in a busy day, and certainly it's hard on a ready-mix concrete delivery man who's in and out of a truck, he's dealing on a construction job site, or he's back at the plant, trying to individually stop all of a sudden and fill one of these 15-minute things out. It's almost impossible. And by the way, Madam Congresswoman, there are no sleeper berths on a ready-mix concrete truck, so that goes to show you how this is misdirected.
Thank you. Ms. Katzen, in answering my question, commenting about when I asked each of the witnesses to comment regarding the assertion of the administrator that yes, the PRA, Paperwork Reduction Act, is working, you mentioned the fact about the empirical data. So my question to you is, how do we measure, or how does WIRA measure whether or not the goals of the Paperwork Reduction Act has been accomplished?
Well, I think there are things that you can measure, and those are the data that so many people here have relied on. What I was alluding to was the impossibility of measuring what the situation would be like without the Paperwork Reduction Act, because there's no counterfactual baseline to use. And it's something similar to what Mr. Daly was saying, that the cup is probably a quarter to maybe a third full, in that you have made some difference, but there's a long way to go. The ability to measure is essential, but you can't measure against what you don't know. As in, I think he used the safety example. If there are no safety requirements, we didn't have an air traffic controllers system. How many plane crashes would there be? Who knows? We know how many there are now with such a system in place. That leads us to think that maybe it's working, although maybe not perfectly. And that's, I don't think the PRA has as good a track record as the FAA and the air traffic controllers, but that's the kind of analogy that I was trying to use. And the problem of measurement, actually, Madam Chairwoman, is significant. And I don't want to be a skunk at the picnic, but in fact, almost everybody is relying on the Mark Crane study that was done for SBA for the 9 billion hours. And he takes the total regulatory costs, which are not just paperwork. It's paperwork plus regulations. And in my written testimony, I note, and I really want to emphasize, that study is not universally acclaimed. Very credible sources have pointed out time and again that the estimate of the total regulatory burden is so impossible that OMB has given up that task completely. And then to divide it by the number of employees on a per-employee basis, particularly when he's using the high end, they're using 1.1 trillion. OMB has used figures like 44 billion. There's a huge difference between that it really sort of makes the thing somewhat suspect. I do not deny there's a burden, and that time is better spent on other things. But before we latch on to that figure and say, that's the gospel, I would just raise a red flag.
What really struck me was the fact that the administrator came here, and when I asked specific question or I made specific suggestions, that basically there wasn't a concrete answers, recommendations to the committee. And for someone who is there, that knows what is happening every day, it really makes me wonder I don't think that the committee has to have all the answers. We need to have the type of synergy in terms of the people that are working at OIRA to be able to tell us what is working, what is not working, if consolidation should happen, if we should take the responsibility from the chief information officer and give it to somebody else, or if they need more resources.
But the chief information officer was assigned this task in the 1995 PRA because it was thought essential to have someone outside the program office providing a dispassionate, objective view. And the CIO official was thought to be that person. As I pointed out a couple of years ago in other testimony, the CIO official has lots of other responsibilities, and you alluded to that, and I thought correctly so. They've got their hands full. Ours were busy with Y2K. Now there's all sorts of other kinds of issues. I think that it is a legitimate inquiry as to whether there are other people within the department, General Counsel's office, the Office of the Secretary, that can perform this second look, this dispassionate, objective review. And in any event, OIRA should be following up and providing its own objective review. I think you're right to press those points.
Thank you. Mr. Shaba, do you have any other? Well, again, thank you all for your insightful information, and I ask unanimous consent that members will have 5 days to submit a statement and supporting materials for the record. Without objection, so ordered. This hearing is now adjourned.